From KCRW in Santa Monica and PRI, Public Radio International, this is To the Point.
Painkillers, steroids, and other drugs are often effective, but they can be expensive and hard to administer and accompanied by lethal side effects. Medical professionals and some investors now say the entire drug industry may someday be replaced by what's called bioelectronics. That is a kind of electroshock therapy for the nervous system. We'll hear what that's all about in a moment on To the Point.
Have you checked out the KCRW iPad app? It's called The Music Mine. Stream music handpicked by our DJs, watch live performances, and find new music. See why iTunes calls it an essential app for music discovery. Download and learn more at kcrw.com/musicmine.
We're only back with today's Talking Point, which involves the cover story of this Sunday's New York Times Magazine, available right now on the Times website online. The title of the article is Can the Nervous System Be Hacked? It's about bioelectronics, which is a way to get the nervous system to communicate with the immune system and, in effect, tell the body to heal itself. The author is Michael Behar. He is a freelance magazine journalist. He joins us now. And, Michael, thanks for being on our show.
Oh, thanks for having me.
What's this all about? What does it mean to get the nervous system to communicate with the immune system, and how do you do it?
Well, the fundamental premise is that the nervous system communicates in sort of a binary code, much like a computer communicates. So the idea is if you can actually understand what that language is, you can dispatch messages into the nervous system to fix things that are broken, almost like a software patch for a computer.
And how do you do that physically?
Well, physically, there's two steps. The first is actually trying to decipher what the language is. And scientists, and my story is mostly about how scientists are just now trying to figure out what that language is. Once you figure that out, then it's a matter of creating a device, and these things are very, very small, sometimes the size of a rice grain, that would then attach to a nerve in a specific position, maybe near an organ that is sick, like for someone who's diabetic, it could be the pancreas, and monitor for signals that are incoming, that are in error, and then correct for them before they can do damage.
So the device itself is monitoring miscommunications? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, that's the sort of long-term idea. In the short term, the idea is basically that the device will dispatch signals to make corrections. That's sort of a one-way device. The idea is to create something eventually that for a sick patient will look for these sort of rogue signals that are causing the disease, interrupt them, and then actually send the correct one out that will create a healthy body.
You mentioned diabetes as one disease that might be dealt with in this manner. What other diseases are they looking at?
Well, cancer is a big one. There's been recent discoveries that prostate cancer and leukemia and a few others are communicating through the nervous system, particularly when a cancer goes metastasizes, and trying to figure out what those signals are and how to stop them. But really, almost any disease could be targeted because everything that happens in the body really comes through the nervous system, the central nervous system in the brain. So if you go to the source, you might be able to deal with practically every disease.
One scientist you talked to even suggested the common cold.
That's right. Right. There's new evidence that suggests that the nervous system is sort of like radar, and it actually begins to sense when a virus like the cold virus has invaded the body long before you're showing any symptoms. And so if the nervous system knows about it, the concept is maybe we can knock it out before we even get sick.
Well, this sounds as if it might be a real challenge to the drug industry. What about Big Pharma? Are they trying to fight it, or are they getting on board?
Well, my story profiles GlaxoSmithKline, which is one of the largest in the world, and they're definitely getting on board. They're supporting it with a lot of money, about $60 million, and then a lot of undisclosed amounts to individual researchers. And it's interesting because pharmaceutical companies sell drugs; they don't sell devices. So, and the other point is that pharmaceutical companies are generally very conservative when it comes to sort of bleeding-edge technology like this. So to see a big one like GlaxoSmithKline get on board, obviously indicates that they see a huge promise in this area, and they also have recognized very publicly that the sort of age, the era of taking drugs to cure disease will soon come to an end, because it's very expensive to find new drugs, and because of what you mentioned leading up to this is side effects.
On the other hand, I would think if we're all walking around with implanted microchips, couldn't they be hacked from the outside as well as controlled? I take it they are remotely controlled.
They are remotely controlled. Some of the early ones on the market even use iPads to basically create updates and to tweak the, quote, prescription that they might be dispatching to the body. But, yeah, the idea there is this idea that they could be hacked. And because they are attached to the nervous system, it means that you sort of, in a way, could theoretically access everything, right? But in practicality, it's unclear whether that will ever happen. And like any other device, it's assumed that these things will have firewalls, and they'll either be built in, or one concept is something you would actually carry with you that would block any malicious signals that are trying to hack into the device.
There also invariably are unintended consequences when something new, particularly this new, comes along. We've certainly found that with drugs, as you indicated. A lot of them have very serious side effects. Some of them can even be lethal. So what protections are possible in this situation? Or do we even know that yet, if the consequences are, in fact, unintended and perhaps as yet even unknown?
Well, the big clinical trial that's been underway for about 2 years is for rheumatoid arthritis patients, and they've been getting an implant on their vagus nerve, which is in the neck, to alleviate the pain and inflammation that goes along with the disease. They've had great success, and so far there have been no side effects at all. And so, nobody knows really what will happen when then millions of people are using this, much like when drugs are tested. You see success in their small group, but then when they get out into the general public, there actually are side effects that were unintended. So I don't think we really know what the side effects could be, but initially, from looking at the science, there really hasn't been any. And the way these things work, it would be unlikely that they would necessarily affect other systems if the goal is to target them very specifically to a certain disease and a certain organ.
We're obviously way past the theoretical stage. If, in fact, these are already being implanted into people with rheumatoid arthritis, how soon is this likely to be approved by the FDA and on the market?
Well, for the rheumatoid arthritis, I would guess quite soon. The first stage of this clinical trial is finished. There's about 18 patients who've been in it, and they've shown great success. I've talked to a couple of them, and they've sort of had what I would almost call miraculous recoveries from the excruciating pain that's involved with rheumatoid arthritis. So probably within the next 2 to 3 years, that specific device made by a company called SetPoint will likely be approved by the FDA, and then they're going to go on and test for other diseases like Crohn's disease and maybe diabetes and prostate. I mean, there's a whole series of steps.
Michael Behar, once again, author of Can the Nervous System Be Hacked? Cover story of this Sunday's New York Times Magazine. Thanks a lot for being on our program. Very interesting subject.
Thank you. Appreciate it. To
the Point, produced this week by Katie Cooper, Andrea Brody, Gideon Brower, Benjamin Gottlieb, Jenny Hamill, and Caitlin Schamberg. Our technical director is Phil Richards, senior producer Evan George, managing producer Sonia Geis. Thanks also to the John Coltrane family. I'm Norman Alney. Join us again for To the Point, produced live at Podcast. It's a co-production of KCRW Santa Monica and Public Radio International.
PRI, Public Radio International.